All right. Hi, guys. So today we're going to be talking about just going over some more problems with analyzing graphs of rational functions. If you have not already listened to the notes and taken the notes along with that video, please do so first before you watch this. Um, Additionally, it is strongly encouraged for you to try these practice problems first on your own after having watched the notes and then using this video to really just go over those to make sure that you've done it correctly and fill in any gaps in your understanding that you may have. So if you're able to, please print out this practice set. If you're not able to print it out, please at least have it up and then be writing things down. Remember, that's the way that we learn math, is by doing math. You can't just expect to understand it just by passively watching these videos, okay? So the first three practice problems are based on the graph of 1 over x. And so we have the graph of 1 over x here. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fill in those asymptotes on the x and the y axes, reminding myself here that the vertical asymptote is at x equals 0 and the horizontal asymptote is at y equals 0. And that is for my parent function 1 over x. Then if I look at the new asymptotes for this transformed graph at the bottom of my page here, number 1, I can see that my vertical asymptote is still the same. It is still x equals 0, but my horizontal asymptote has now moved up 2 units. Now the horizontal asymptote is y equals 2, not y equals 0. And so the description of the movement is that the graph has been translated up 2 units. And then as we discussed in our previous video, the domain of this graph would be based upon our vertical asymptote. So the domain is x equals 0. So the domain here is the vertical asymptote is x equals 0. The domain would be x does not equal 0. And the range was y equals 2. So the range here would be y does not equal 2. Now, as we're doing our practice quizzes and our quiz for this week, it's important that we realize that with the options that you have, the does not equal to is not an option. So if you look at the drop-down menus for this week's practice quiz and quiz, it's going to be written like this: x equals slash 0. And y equals slash 2. That is going to be the same thing as x does not equal 0 and y does not equal 2. Please note that for the purposes of what we're doing here, these are the same. Okay? So that is number 1. All right, and then again, if we look at number 2, I've recopied the parent function. Again, it's important, I think, for you guys to keep that parent function sort of handy as you're working through these problems. So for the parent function 1 over x, the vertical asymptote is x equals 0, the horizontal asymptote is y equals 0, and then we try to look to see what has happened with the translated graph, and we can see that in this case the horizontal asymptote is the same on the x-axis, but the vertical asymptote has shifted. It's no longer on the y-axis, now it's on x equals 2. So the vertical asymptote here is now x equals 2, but the horizontal asymptote is y equals 0. So the description of the movement, the graph has been translated right 2 units. Okay, and then the domain here would be x does not equal 2, and the range would be y does not equal 0. All right, and number 3, again, I put my parent graph up here at the top, 1 over x. My parent graph has a vertical asymptote of x equals 0 and a horizontal asymptote of y equals 0. If we look at number 3, we can see that we have new asymptote locations here. The horizontal asymptote has gone down 2 and the vertical asymptote has gone right 1. So the asymptotes here, we have our vertical asymptote as x equals 1, our horizontal asymptote as y equals -2. And so the movement that we have here, we have our graph has been translated right 1 unit and translated down 2 units. And so our domain here would be x does not equal 1, and our range would be y does not equal -2. So those are the practice problems relating to the parent function 1 over x. When you're specifically talking about the parent function 1 over x, you have the vertical and horizontal asymptotes affecting your movement, your transformations, and then the domain and range are just, the domain is just exactly the vertical asymptote, but you change the equal to does not equal, and the range the same thing with the horizontal asymptote, but you change the equal to does not equal. This is different when we get to 1 over x squared. The domain will be the same idea, but the range is different. So let's go ahead and take a look at examples with 1 over x squared. So we have a look at the graph. G of x is 1 over x squared. Again, I'm going to put in my asymptotes here on my parent function. So the vertical asymptote is x equals 0. The horizontal asymptote is y equals 0. And then if we look at number 4, same directions, we want to know the shifts, the domain and range, and the asymptotes. So I am going to go ahead and put in my asymptotes that have been changed from my parent function. So we can see here that specifically the vertical asymptote has changed to x equals 4. The horizontal asymptote is still on the x-axis, y equals 0. So in terms of the movement, the graph has been shifted right 4 units. Okay, and then the domain is the same as a 1 over x situation. It would be x does not equal 4. That's the same idea. But the range now, in the case of 1 over x squared, we don't have anything negative here. Nothing is below the x-axis in this case, which is the same as the horizontal asymptote. So instead of saying y does not equal 0, we have to consider the fact that we're not using any negatives at all here. So it's actually y is greater than 0. Y is greater than 0. All right, next problem. Number 5, again, I'm going to fill in my vertical and horizontal asymptotes for my parent function. The vertical asymptote is x equals 0, horizontal asymptote y equals 0. And then for the description of the movement, well, first of all, I'm going to put the asymptotes in here, like so. And I can see that my vertical asymptote is still on the y-axis, x equals 0, but my horizontal asymptote is now y equals -5. So my graph has been translated down 5 units. So my domain is x does not equal 0, but my range here would be y is greater than negative 5. Y is greater than negative 5. We have nothing here below this horizontal asymptote. Everything is above the horizontal asymptote. All right, and here we've got our very last problem. I've got, again, my parent function here to the side. In that case, the vertical asymptote is x equals 0. The horizontal asymptote is y equals 0 for the parent function. And if I specifically want to talk about this new function right here, I put in my new asymptotes, graph those, whoops, graph those, and I can see that my vertical asymptote has now shifted and it is at x equals negative 7. And my horizontal asymptote has also shifted here and it is now at y equals 3. So my graph has been translated left 7 units and also translated up 3 units. And then for the domain here, it would be x does not equal negative 7. And then the range, again, all greater than the horizontal asymptote, so y is greater than 3. So hopefully this was helpful to you. If you have any individual questions, please email your specific teacher. Have a great day.